Director.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, nice.
On my other hats.
I'm going to give Director Morrell just another minute or two.
Well, you can start
Have
with
we heard anything? Is there any? We're just calling. Yeah, exactly. We'll be chill. Well, we're going to call to order this regular board member meeting, of the Truckee Donner Public Utility District. It is Wednesday, July 2nd. It is 6:01. Could we get, I guess, roll call, but we know we're going to have one coming in.
Director Morrell will be late, so Director Randall,
Yes.
Director Bender,
Here.
Vice President Laliotis,
Here.
President Finn.
Here. Awesome. As you are willing and able, please join us for the pledge. Director Laliotis, you're up.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Brian, do we have any changes to the agenda tonight? Perfect. Public comment. So this is time set aside for the public to address us, the board, on any matter that is not on the agenda tonight. Testimony related to agendized items should come at the time that that item is being considered. Do we have any public comments tonight? Okay. None on the internet's great. Seeing none. Director updates. This is a chance for the directors to say things that aren't on the agenda.
Yeah, I have none tonight.
Okay.
Nothing for me.
Nothing for Director Randall, Director Leliotis.
perfect
Oh,
timing.
perfect timing. Excellent.
Perfect timing. I do not have any updates tonight.
Okay. I'll give a quickie and then we'll let Director Morrell give her a chance to. It's all good. I just wanted to say that I attended the CTA Governing Partners meeting this morning. We're discussing, this is, CTA is the Climate Transformation Alliance, of which the PUD is a governing partner. So we're going to revisit our strategic plan because we have accomplished all of the goals that we set in our first iteration of that. I would invite this board to be thinking about, because I'm probably going to get something on the agenda in the next couple of months to talk about our role in that, what we would like to see the CTA doing more of, doing less of, how we would like to participate, how we would like to, what we would like that organization to accomplish with us. We are a governing partner, so we get to do some steering. So just put that in your mind, and I'll be looking for input in the next 6 to 8 weeks, probably. And that is my director update. And that brings us to Director Morrell, if you have anything.
I don't have any director updates.
Beautiful. So this leads us to department updates. What's going on at the PUD?
All right, good evening, President Flynn, members of the board, Mike Swanson, Electric Engineering Operations Director. Outages, but unfortunately on Sunday, we had a major event take place. At 9:18, all district customers lost power. At 9:43, power was restored to all customers with the exception of the Glenshire area. At 10:54, power is restored to the Glenshire area. The root cause of this incident was a failed lightning arrestor at NV Energy's Mount Rose substation. Unfortunately, they had their system out of normal configuration. Basically, a switch was open that should have been closed at California substation, which resulted in our power outage. So we did have a full restoration achieved within an hour and 36 minutes. Now the good stuff. So Electric Department put on a great event here this last month where they do training, they did a barbecue, they did various other things. We had Hurtman and bucket rescue training. This was our employees up doing the various tasks. They went through a training exercise with one of our training experts and then went through the motions. Each one of them has to basically demonstrate that they can do these tasks to stay as a journeyman lineman. We also did confined space rescue training, very similar. You can see that we had the fire department there in support of our training efforts. And it was a great opportunity to collaborate with Truckee Fire, working with them so they could see what we do, especially what we do during emergency rescue. It gave us an opportunity to look at their trucks. They obviously with the pictures here, they got an opportunity to try out our climbing gear and get up a couple poles. And we had an opportunity to get up on their ladder truck. So again, it was a great event by all. So last month I shared some evaluations we're doing on different materials. This is another evaluation we're doing on a different type of connector. So the picture on the left is what's called a parallel groove clamp or a 2-bolt clamp. This has been in the industry for quite a while. There's some new materials that have been out for several years that we're currently evaluating to see how they'll work on our system. The middle picture is what's called a bolted wedge connector. There's a bolt that basically pulls the wedge in. You put conductors in that C-clamp, and then you use the bolt to drive that wedge in. Picture on the right is what's termed as a MPAC connector or a fired wedge connector. Basically, there's a tool that goes on. You put the wire in the C-clamp, and there's a tool that goes on that drives that wedge into the C-clamp there. The reason why we're evaluating this is many utilities have found that 2-bolt connector has a greater failure rate. Much like that dead-end connector that I showed last month, there's human error factor involved with the torquing of those 2 bolts. Same human error factor can take place with that center one. So the one we're really taking a close look at is that fired wedge, where it really minimizes the human error potential there. And again, we're not going to have a change-out program. It's something that we'll just implement as we install new. All right, our key focus, a little bit of a repeat of last month. There's a couple new items up here, but wildfire system hardening, wildfire mitigation system hardening continues to be a top priority for us. Equipment settings, we're looking at different types of equipment settings we can put in our automated equipment so that it operates faster during high peak season, high peak wildfire season, I should say. We're going to be presenting to the board a workshop on this in the near future so you can see what the equipment will actually do. We're performing system inspections right now. We want to make sure our distribution grid is in the top condition that it can possibly be in as we approach the high peak season for wildfires. Again, tree removals and trimming continue to be a top priority. Our system hardening design is nearly complete for the Northwoods project, so we're looking forward to getting material and getting started on that. Unfortunately, the lead times for material are lengthy at this point, 15 to 16 weeks. So it'll be September probably before we're able to get started. And we have the weather and risk mitigation consultant reviews. You'll be hearing more about that later this evening. And grid monitoring technology is another workshop that we're going to be performing in the future. And I'm happy to report that Martis Valley Substation, we started the construction this week. With that, thank you for the opportunity.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board, Stephen Poncelet with Public Information and Strategic Affairs. On the PIO side, we talked a little bit about this last meeting. We are pushing our key summer campaigns, Your Money at Work, really demonstrating and showing the investments that the district's making in service reliability and safety and operation of our electric and water utilities. We are in wildfire season. The numbers up here aren't so bad, but down the hill they are. We did our public safety partner kickoff last week, so it's about 30 local agencies representing all the emergency response, town, 2 counties, CHP, Cal OES, Nevada County OES, all the telecoms, all the local agencies, schools and hospitals, of course, and then the support. And so NV Energy came on and gave a great presentation on an update on their program. Don Johnson from NOAA Reno came on and gave a real nice forecast for the fire season. And then we reminded them of our 48 and 24 and 14, 12 to 4 hour countdown protocols and communication protocols, and then pushed them to all our web and other resources. On the water, we're pushing the water campaign, which is part of kind of heading into rates for water and cost of service. And the water campaign really breaks down into the source of our water, the Martis Valley, and you saw some of that in the groundwater management plan, and then the delivery of it through our system and our people and our technology. And then water conservation, ongoing message, and we're really working this year on bringing the garden up to its fullest potential, because once the conservation as a way of life outdoor water restrictions hit, that garden is our main tool in education to help us comply with the regulation, but still maintain beautiful outdoor landscaping. And then ongoing engagement with youth and scholarships. We've been talking about this for a couple meetings now. I did want to share some pictures. We have a press release hitting the streets as we speak, announcing our scholarship winners. We had to wait to get the professional photographer photos out of the Community Foundation. And then I thank you, President Finn and Director Morell, for your quotes. So you'll be seeing that coming out very soon. I will point out, whoops, excuse me, I'm going backwards. All right. Is there a oh, below, sorry. Hey, I got it. I'm back. Naomi Park was a winner, and that's a photo up there. And then Zachary Harris was the other winner of the scholarships. On strategic affairs, we ongoing engagement through our joint action groups in Sacramento and DC, and this is the time of the year where bills, go from 2,000 down to 200, and so a lot of talk about a lot of stuff, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So we're tracking that and providing inputs to those processes. We did submit the board-adopted wildfire mitigation plan to the Wildfire Safety Advisory Board as requested, as required before the July 1st deadline. We did attend the California Municipal Utilities Association's public power event at the WIFTIC, the Wildfire Threat Intelligence and Integration Center. About 30 of us showed up from across the state. Very impressive technology that they have there, 20 full-time equivalents supporting that effort from local, state, and federal government. So you had a major from the Army who's bringing in all the Army intelligence through their satellites and other stuff. So an impressive resource, and public power is engaged to try to figure out how we can best leverage it. That pictures their actual center where they monitor 24/7, 365, and that's in Cal OES's main building in Mather, outside of Sacramento. And then we are working with the Martis Valley Groundwater Management Plan, local water agencies to address the public hearing comments from the last meeting. We met with the local agencies to discuss and consider them. We are sharing our proposed edits to the documents and those letters directly with GEI consultants. They are the experts, and it's their document we're editing, so to speak, and so we wanted to make sure they were on board, and then we will close the loop with the organizations and individuals that engaged with us. And that's it. Thank you.
We give rebates on the electric side, such as, we give Christmas lights and light bulbs and appliances and things like that. Has there ever been any thought given to doing something on the water side, if nothing else, giving out water drought plants or something like that?
Sure. So we've had water conservation rebates for as long as we've had electric rebates. A leak repair is a big one that has a big return on investment. So when we identify a leak and notify our customers, there's information about the rebates that are available. we've been handing out low flow shower heads and hose spray nozzles and shower timers and other stuff to help on the indoor and outdoor side. As we move into conservation as a way of life, we are working on developing new outdoor rebates. That one will be focused on native and drought tolerant and trying to promote those appropriate plants for water conservation in our region, and we're working with the local nurseries on that. And then we're looking into stuff all the way up to a turf replacement, because that's going to be the big one for water conservation savings. So.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board, Mike Salmon, CFO. These are our excellent customer service scores for the last month. Only 17 responses, so a little kind of a small month as far as responses, but still very good scores. This is our billings through May. June is still wrapping up reporting-wise. It's about 18 million through May in electric billings and 8 million in water. Account growth is a little bit slower than the typical average, closer to 0.8% is more the average. Right now we're running 0.3 year to date. On the electricity side, a little over 1,000 kWh average, and that will come down as we go through the summer months and then tick back up a little bit in the last 2 months of the year. Both of that average so far through May is down to last year and down to the 3-year average. The cost per kilowatt hour is up about 6% to last year. As most of you know, the rates were up about 12, so that difference is the PCA, primarily the PCA, not all of it. Some of that is just variances in usage by meter type and stuff like that. On the water side, 125 gallon average per account per day is up, and that is up to last year and to the 3-year average. Cost per gallon is actually down with that. The majority of the water side is on the fixed charge side. So we attribute the down to prior year on electric primarily to weather, and then similarly on water, things being drier than average, than whatever average is. Right. General services, facilities maintenance, the board recently approved a new fire alarm panel, and we've got that installed and upgraded and tested and tagged, and we've got new horns so we can hear that alarm when it goes off. Asphalt maintenance is underway this time of year. On consent this evening is asphalt replacement. So we worked on the bids in June. Water tank paintings, completed 2 of those. In June, I think there's 2 more. We did some emergency operation training. On the vehicle maintenance side, we did dielectric inspections and testing and completed and passed, and that's specifically the safety of the larger equipment with respect to grounding and electricity and making sure those buckets are grounded properly, the fiberglass and however that works in the world, but making sure that everything is protected and grounded properly. So that's tested annually. That all went well. That's a big project. Various fleet repairs. We're working on some lighting upgrades. And then smog, BAR is Bureau of Automotive Repairs, is telling us we need to smog our district vehicles. That is certain types of vehicles. In the past, we had been exempt. I'm pretty sure I'm hearing that pretty much every district in the state got notices from BAR to start smogging things. So we're going to fall in compliance with that as well. And then we completed weekly bid inspections, which was a regulatory matter for basic, forget what bid stands for. Help me out, Brian.
Inspection and testing, but it's a
CHP related for our heavy equipment, making sure that that stuff on the road that's big and heavy is inspected and that the brakes aren't going to fail, those type of things. So very important there. Speaking of water tanks, if I ever get accused of a boring-looking aquifer, we also have brown water tanks with no graffiti, but that's a beautiful one, painted, freshly painted. Looks great. On the right there, we're working on lighting upgrades. LED lighting has changed dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years, so we're kind of plugging away at upgrading the lighting on some of our stuff when the crews are out there in storms in the dark. As you know, every bit of improvement in lighting can help. So making progress there. As you know, the ACFR was completed. We're going to touch on that, excuse me, on the upcoming biennial. We're going to kick off the budget with a July workshop on the 16th of July, workshop number 1. So looking forward to that process, and we'll touch on the ACFR there. We'll cover a little bit of some of the tips of the ways and highlights on that. There's active cost of service analysis and rate studies, both electric and water. Yeah, so plenty busy there. And then I just wanted to point out in the back of the treasurer's report, there's 2 new charts. A lot of the treasurer's report is just all numbers, and there's account balances for all our cash balances. There's now a visual added for, this is just a snapshot. This is the water. There's also one for electric. You've got 5 years of year-end balance, and then same month, prior year, last month, and then the current month, and then the forecast and what our year-end goal is. And the way you would read this chart for ease of reading this chart, because there's a lot of dots, and let me stay on the right spot, you would pick your color and your type of icon, excuse me. And for example, the blue rectangle, blue square, excuse me, is a operating reserve. So you could see 5 years of history, same month last year, operating reserve last month, where it is this month, and then what our forecast is for the end of the year and what our goal is. Same thing with capital reserves. And these are not all our reserves, but our main reserves. So I would suggest when you're reading this, you focus on a color and then shift to the next color. And that's an easy way to flow through this, because there is a lot on one chart that is going on there, but it's a lot of information neatly on one page in a visual. And then right here, you can see this is a debt issuance for the water capital in 2022. And Chad and his team effectively got that down to 0 last year, into last year. Yep. And so they did a great job of spending that cash on projects. Let's see. All important are UAMPS power costs. So May was $65 per megawatt hour. On the left, this is May for the last 4 years. There's the $65 for this May. That's May last year, May 2 years ago, May 3 years ago. And then this is a trend the last 12 months, this being May of this year. And then over here on the right is just year-to-date cost per megawatt hour, which is at $63, and then that's for 4 years. And you can see we're slightly below last year's year-to-date May cost, which I think was about 67. I can't see, it's too small. So things are trending well in purchase power from a favorable standpoint. And as you know, that passes back through to our customers through the PCA. A few things on economic indicators. Year-to-date inflation is 2.4, and the previous years are on the left of that bar chart. And then on the right is the USA and California unemployment rates, currently at 4.2 for the US and 5.3% for California. The big spike is obviously the pandemic on the right unemployment chart. Fuel costs, I've talked about this in the past. I will continue to talk about it, not every month, but I did want to hit on it one more time because I'll get to that in the next slide. You can see the gap between USA and California is getting larger, and that will continue. The green bar this month, last month it was Canada. This month it's Nevada, and you'll see that Nevada's average price is in between California and the USA. Effective yesterday, there were 2 increases happening on fuel in California. There's the gas tax increase for inflation, 1.6 cents per gallon on average, and then stricter low carbon fuel standards, LCFS standards went into effect. There is no consensus on what the impact of that cost is going to be. The critics say 65 cents to 75 cents a gallon. Some say 5 to 8 cents a gallon. Another estimate I found said 13 to 17 cents, so time will tell. That's all I can say at this point. There is no consensus on that impact. Looking a little bit longer term, not super long term, next 12 months, there's 2 refineries that are projected to be closed that have announced closures. Phillips 66 in LA and Valero in Benicia. That's about 20% of California's production. That will have a very large impact on California fuel prices, without a doubt. It will also impact Nevada prices. Nevada gets quite a bit of fuel from California refineries. The estimates are anywhere from $2 to $5 per gallon increase. I kid you not. So we'll see where that shakes out. Other economic indicators real quick. Chad, real quick. The headlines today are just fascinating, right? We had in the market, these S&P and NASDAQ had record highs. The Dow was almost a record high. You have Microsoft laying off 6,000 people. You got a bad jobs report. I mean, the economics are just trending all over the place. So no one knows. There's speculation on both ends of the spectrum. That's what I could tell you about that. Fascinating. And Tesla was down 14% in deliveries last quarter. If there's no questions, that's my update. Yep.
Good evening, President Finn and members of the board. I'm here to redeem the water tank picture and say that it was a beautiful picture. No, just joking. Very first thing that we'd like to start off with is the graph that we've become familiar with. This is comparing the May to May from 25 to that of 24, as well as the hashed blue line is the 3 years of Mays put together. So what we see here is that when we compare 24 to 25, it was less than 1% difference. So we were very tight with regards to the production side of it. Mr. Semina presents on the selling side of it. We're presenting on the production side. So on the production side, we were less than 1%. However, if we take the 3-year average, we were about 3% higher as we go through this. And so it's one of those things, why we're tracking this, again, is to deal with the conservation of way of life regulations that will be coming up. If we would not hit the terms that are set forth for 2027, we would be required to reduce by 1% per year as we go forth to stay in compliance with what is coming up. So this is something that we're going to continue to talk about just to make sure that we're tracking where we're at, where we're going, and hopefully we can get below the thresholds that are being required. I throw this graph up. This is one of the groups within the water department. This is our water distribution group, and we've been tracking the metrics or how many jobs they have, and we've also been trying to track the touch time that's associated with each of these jobs. First thing I would just want to bring your attention to is that as we go down the 2025 column, almost everything is up. And it's something that we're seeing more tasks. We're seeing more things that are needing to be touched on and fixed as we go throughout the system. But this doesn't really tell the whole story. And that's why I wanted to throw in a few pictures here. I'm going to start off with this picture that's over here on the left. This is a service lateral that they're fixing that was 12 to 13 feet deep. When you get that deep and you're down doing some of these different jobs, it's not the same as if you're at 48 inches that you see here on the far right side. There's shoring that needs to be taken into consideration. The excavation takes a lot longer. So even though we show you those graphics about the touch time, they vary greatly depending on what's going on. The middle is that of a hydrant replacement. So the hydrant replacement is something that we want to make sure that we can support the structure fires, that we're staying up, that our equipment is working. We go around and we're valve turning and flushing. And one of the things that we notice is when we have a bad hydrant, they need to go out and replace it. So just wanted to show you quickly what a lateral it looks like going over to it as well as the hydrant. And then the picture on the right, though it was brought up to my attention earlier, it looks a lot deeper than what it actually is. That operator's about 48 inches is all that trench is. But this is an intertie that was going on between one of the new piping or new pieces of pipe that was put on to the old pipe. And so, again, this is something that our staff is helping to support the contractors that are out there, as well as some of this falls on us, some of this falls on the contractors that are doing the jobs. I'd like to go through these 4 different projects quickly and talk about where we're at. Hopefully we can bring a little bit of light to it for the customers that are watching. The Sierra Meadows job, they were finished the first section. They've moved on to the second section. We appreciate the patience of the customers out there. We ended up having to have 2 outages for a very short period of time just because for the interties. We needed to take the pressure of the water lines down for a little bit. Tahoe Donner, we are expected to finish before the end of July. So for all the residents that are up there in Tahoe Donner, we're almost done up there. We have a little bit of asphalting left to do, and we're anticipating bringing this to the board for a final closeout the first meeting of August. So this is a huge success. They really did a phenomenal job out there. Ski tank, this is the last piece of it. They're doing the last intertie that is between the new and old that is out there with the new stuff that was built. Again, this is anticipated to come to the board for final completion the first meeting in August also. So we're going to have several of our jobs in the capital side are starting to wrap up, which is great. We have several others that are starting though. So this is an ongoing, continual process. The last thing I want to talk about is the capital improvement plan. So this is directly tied with the COSA, or the cost of service that we're doing. So a big piece of the rates is the capital. It's making sure that we're replacing things on the right intervals, different things of that nature. We're planning on having a workshop at the second meeting of July. So any customers who would like to hear what are we doing, or the board of why did we pick the different projects, what's going to happen there, we're going to have the expert here that is going to talk about it and go over that capital improvement plan. Thank you.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board. Jillian Stewart here to present Human Resources and Risk Update. First up, I want to start with welcoming Kate Traeger to the district. She started on June 10th as our newest customer service representative. So welcome, Kate. Next up is our recognition for the month. So we have Chuck Gazzo, who won for safety. In honor of National Safety Month, Chuck was nominated for his dedication to safety. Chuck has always been safety conscious in his role as vehicle maintenance foreman, but recently went above and beyond by reminding fellow coworkers to wear helmets while riding their electric bikes, as he has witnessed them on their bikes or e-bikes without them. He's quick to point out that no matter how short the distance one might be riding, wearing a helmet is essential to protecting oneself when riding on the streets of Truckee. See something, say something. Thanks for looking out for us even off the clock, Chuck. Next up is Jenny Treckle-Bolin for Work-Life Balance. Jenny is nominated for demonstrating a great work-life balance by bringing her personality and interests into the office and showing them off for all to see. Jenny is a great artist. Soon after starting her position in customer service, she took on the role of doing the birthday and anniversary whiteboard in the break room. Her talent shines in each month's new design. She also brings a bright and fun pop of color to all the anniversary cards she signs. Thank you so much for sharing this talent with us and bringing a smile to everyone's face who gets to enjoy your art. Greg Martin and Carlos Reyes won for timeliness. The electric and engineering department have pivoted in how they are designing projects along with having tight timelines. Greg and Carlos have been outstanding with their timeliness and following through and helping to get information from vendors. They have expedited quotes, timelines, order history, and they've been more than willing to explain the ordering process to help avoid breaking any district requirements. It has been a huge relief for the electric and engineering teams to feel like there is someone on their side who understands the time restraints of their project with a new design mandate. For risk, compliance, and safety, on July 1st, we had our new work comp insurance premium go into effect, and that rate is broken down into base rates and then a percentage of payroll. So there's no change to our base rate, but where we were able to see a reduction in cost is in the effective percent of payroll. And this is determined through the experience modification factor. And what that is what insurance companies use to just determine that percent premium, and it's based on claims history and our safety record. On average, or 1.0 is kind of considered average, and so for below that, it's considered that we're doing better than average. So you'll see over the last 2 years, we've been trending down with our 25, 26 X mod factor being 0.68. So we like to see that. And you can see the reduction there and what that translated to of effective percent of our payroll being 1.5% for 25, 26. And kind of overall fiscal impact of that is for 25 labor overhead savings to the budget is $111,000. This is a quick recap of our ongoing Emergency Operations Center training. In late June, we had our second round of in-person training with another group of our employees who got to go through this. This was a lot of support staff, foremen, supervisor level. Included 2 days in-class training that was incorporated with a mock scenario throughout the training as well. So everyone was assigned positions and had to be activated in doing their roles while going through the training. Event recap, reinforcing our emergency response training. We took a kind of fun approach and did emergency response Jeopardy during June Safety Month. So we had 2 sessions of that to reinforce the concepts that they're learning both with their online training and the in-person training. The middle picture there is a staff mountain bike ride. This was organized by a customer service team member who's done this last year, and this was the first ride of 2025, where she puts out an invite in group, many of which are PUD employees and maybe some friends or partners also joined on the first ride of the year. And then on the summer solstice, which was June 20th, the group got together and just scheduled a lunchtime walk to celebrate the summer solstice. Thank you.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board. This is a update on power supply. So this is a cover just May. So that's when our last numbers have come in most recently. So on the pie chart to the left, you'll see there's basically 2 sources of energy that our energy came from. The gray is carbon emitting, and the green is renewable or non-carbon emitting. What you don't see any. Sorry, it's renewable. You don't see any non-carbon emitting because the Vail plant, as I kind of talked to you about last board meeting, has been offline. So more on that in a second. But you can see we're getting a little more than half our energy is coming from carbon emitting, which is up a little bit. The chart to the right there shows a little more detail on that. Basically, without the Vail plant online, we take a hit there, and we are buying a little more from the market. And the market is essentially carbon emitting sources of generation. Our wind farms and solar arrays are all running just fine. It's just a little more market purchases than we're used to. Last month was a decent amount of travel. We went to the APPA, that's the American Public Power Association, the national conference. This year is held in New Orleans. One thing I thought it'd be great to point out is the Light Up Navajo project. So as you'll recall, the Red Mesa solar array that we bought into a couple of years ago, it's running now. That's actually in Utah, but it's in Navajo Nation territory. But a little south of that, there's an initiative happening there. It's going on for a number of years to bring electricity to 15,000 Navajo households who do not have power. And that covers about 27,000 square miles of territory. And this is done through efforts of a lot of public utilities donating things, poles, labor, staff, all sorts of things to help out with this. But also, I bring it up because the Red Mesa project that we buy into, a piece of that we buy from actually helps fund this and help them have this project getting lights to all their homes as well, including keeping their power costs low. It was nice to see because APPA did kind of recognize a lot of the members who have been sending staff and materials over. Just real great thing happening. Also, it was a UAMPS board meeting. Those go on for a couple days. So I'm summarizing a couple days in 3 bullets every month there. But basically, Vail is trying to be reassembled now. They're working on putting it back together to have it run. So hopefully we'll see power from that source again soon, meaning we'll get less from the markets, which would be nice. The Power County project is still kind of cranking along. Welcome to all permitting and studies and getting all those things figured out. Still, I bet that thing won't be online until about 2032, but it's moving along just fine. Unfortunately, the geothermal projects, we were looking at about 2 or 3 of them. They're really stalled right now. I'm not saying they're dead, but they're definitely stalled right now. Just, it's everything from technology changes, permitting, some of them shopping for better pricing and like better buying to buy for higher pricing. So that's a little disappointing. So it's often now looking to try to find some more to fill that little gap in that I'm not planning, I'm not expecting it to happen now anytime soon, unfortunately. But that should be it.
I'm going to add a couple of things. One, kind of wanted to add on to that Light Up Navajo Nation. It's a project that's been going on for many years, as Jared pointed on. It's a really good example of public power collaborating on a project that needs to get done in this nation. The fact that there are still large sections of our country that people live without power or electricity is pretty amazing in itself, and making huge headway in delivering those services across that kind of, pretty significant footprint in the lower southwest part of our country. I also want to commend the city of Roseville. They're pretty proactive in this, offering contributions and staff, like Jared said, and the fact that we're indirectly contributing to it as an investor and customer of the Red Mesa project. So just wanted to kind of echo that sentiment. It's important that the public power collaboratives out there and the impacts they have on our country. That's why we're a part of things like APPA, NCPA, on the water side, AWWA, all these different acronyms. You can look up the index on what those all mean. But public agencies working beyond just their own communities, and we talked about that in our strategic plan development, the ripple effect of the water droplet and the concentric circles that reach out beyond our local community. So just want to touch on that. Speaking of our community, we are going to have a holiday this Friday, 4th of July, celebrating independence. And it's really been known as the highest occupancy week in Truckee. And so for the Truckee Donner PD, what that means is we do celebrate and acknowledge the holiday. We will have crews on call, on staff, to address any issues or service requirements during the holiday weekend, including Friday. We'll have staff here in town. We'll have staff available that can be called into action if needed. We've also, want to send the message to the community that there's to be patient and service time responses during the holidays. We have a couple of major events in town. Friday, the 4th of July parade, will have Donner Pass Road pretty much shut down for the first half of the day. And in that afternoon with the fireworks in Donner Lake, the amount of kind of occupancy and celebration down there at Donner Lake really creates a lot of mobility challenges and accessibility challenges for our crews. And so the community should just be aware if something were to occur on your property or as a circuit-wide event, it'll take us some time to get into those areas. I've had conversations with the police department and town management that, especially when that event releases and begins to unload all of that traffic, it may be well into the night and into the morning before we can get into some of those areas. So please be patient. We're not going to put anybody at risk with us trying to bring in heavy equipment while there's a lot of pedestrians out there. Ask everyone to be safe and, again, just be patient.
More. Okay, that brings us to our consent calendar this evening. Do we have any public comment on consent? Public is thin on the ground today. Any directors' comments or questions about consent? We're all good? Good. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the consent calendar tonight.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Right on, the race for second. I think Director Randall won. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to the first of our action items this evening, the consideration to adopt the 2024 Nevada County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. And it looks like Mr. Poncelet is going to present for us.
Good evening, President Finn and members of the board. Stephen Poncelet with action item number 11. Little history on kind of disasters and hazard mitigation plans. The Disaster Relief Act of 1974 established the process of presidential disaster declarations. That was followed by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, which was established in 1979. The Stafford Act of 1988 gave FEMA the responsibility for coordinating government-wide relief efforts at the federal level and through the states. And then the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 encouraged states and local governments to create hazard mitigation plans. HMPs are a requirement to secure state and federal disaster relief along with any mitigation funding. So it's a big reason why we do them. In the December 2021 storm, we got $1.25 million back through a Cal OES disaster relief effort, and having a hazard mitigation plan was a requirement to access that funding. And then it must be updated every 5 years, which is what we're doing here. What are hazard mitigation plans? They identify natural hazards that could impact the district. They identify the level of consequences should the hazard occur. They identify the capabilities of the district to mitigate and to respond to hazards. And they document projects that the district has identified that would help mitigate these projects. And a big part of putting those projects in the plan is it then positions you for any grant funding that might become available. And ours does include sources of internal funding, stuff we're doing, and then stuff we need funds for. The district has adopted past HMPs through Nevada County, the benefits of collaboration and having a regional approach in collaboration and coordination. And for the district's portion of the plans, the key hazards identified have been wildfire, earthquake, and severe weather. The district again partnered with Nevada County for the 2024 Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Volume 1 provides an overview at the county level, so it's really Nevada County's plan. It includes detailed information on the planning process, the planning area, risk assessment, capability assessment, mitigation strategy, and plan maintenance. Volume 2 consists of the participating agency-specific annexes, so that's what PUD has and that you're partially approving here along with the main plan. And we're shoulder to shoulder with the town of Truckee, with the fire districts, Nevada City, Grass Valley, Nevada Irrigation District, to name a few that are annexes of the Nevada County plan. And the district's annex includes a community profile, our capability assessment and integration, compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program, again, a requirement of the plan, growth and development trends, and identified hazards, and they remain wildfire, earthquake, and severe weather. And while most people are pretty familiar with wildfire and severe weather, with the discovery of the Polaris Fault in the early 2000s that runs right through Martis Valley, right under Overland Trail underpass, and then into Prosser, on the USGS's most dangerous and active faults. And so we've all since then taken that into account in everything that we do. So the annex does include 7 mitigation projects that we've identified that we'd like to do. Some of them are ongoing and we're doing them already, and some are we would need funding for, and we're positioning ourselves to try to get that. They are provide training to staff and implement the TDPUD 2024 Emergency Operation Plan. You saw 20-some staff in a 2-day training that Jillian shared in her update. And so we're making investments in implementing that plan, which is critical to our ability to respond. Develop and implement an electric utility preemptive de-energization program. You're going to hear about that later, but there's also costs that go along with that. And some the district is forced to undertake ourselves, but there's a lot more we could do with more funding, and so positioning for that. decrease water system hydrant spacing. The standards from the American Water Works Association have evolved over time, and our older neighborhoods don't have the spacing that the newer ones do. Today, it's 500 feet between hydrants, and so we are seeking funding to try to bring the rest of the district up to. And reminder that the hydrants are for fighting structure fires. That's what our system is designed to do. They're not designed to fight wildfires. Earthquake identification and hardening project. So identify, looking at our facilities to what standard they were designed to and how close they are to the fault and what the impacts could be, and then creating funding and plans to try to address those. And again, that's a big project and something that we would seek external funding to support our efforts. Enhanced vegetation management for high wildfire areas and sectionalization. We're doing that already through the wildfire mitigation plan. More funding could let us do more. And so as we try to balance the impacts to rates, we're also looking to get as much done as we can. Enhanced electric overhead system hardening, same thing. And then vegetation management and rights of ways and utility easements and electric system hardening. This was really the concept of overlaying our high fire threat areas with our overhead system and evacuation routes. And then looking at rights of ways, which would be the town, and utility easements would be us to try to make sure that we're doing everything we can on those key evacuation routes. So required steps to have a valid hazard mitigation plan, approval by the California Office of Emergency Service, that's happened, approved by FEMA. They've done that conditionally, but they're waiting for each jurisdiction to approve and then include those in the plan. So it's kind of a conditional approval, but they've been through it and indicated that they're ready to approve. And then approved by jurisdictional annexes government body. That is you for us, of course. FEMA is conditionally approved, and so we're doing this step with the district. Staff are requesting approval in substantially the form presented to allow for any minor non-substantial edits as directed by FEMA during the final approval process. And after approval, there's ongoing maintenance of the plan along with the annual reviews, and then every 5 years, you got to update the plan. There is no direct fiscal impact associated with the adoption of the Nevada County 2024 Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Adoption of the HMP does position the district for potential disaster recovery and state and federal mitigation grant funds going forward. And the recommendation is 1, adopt Resolution 2025-17, adopting the 2024 Nevada County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, Volume 1, and the Truckee-Donner Public Utility District Annex in Volume 2 in substantially the form presented. And that resolution was included with the staff report. It summarizes essentially what I said here tonight, but I'd be happy to read it, or you could at your pleasure. And then 2, authorize staff to incorporate any minor, non-substantial edits as directed by FEMA. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Stephen. I'm going to start with public comment, get that out of the way. Seeing none, okay. Directors, questions and comments about our hazard mitigation plan for multi-jurisdictions? Yes.
I'll start. This is interesting stuff, I think, and we are doing a lot. If you on those 7 bullet points, if you could go back to that slide, I think I said new information, the 7 points, yeah. So we're doing, as you said, quite a bit on that list, and that was impressive. I said, oh yeah, we're doing this. Oh yeah, we're doing that. Talk a little bit more about the funding and grant funding, because we know some of the funding from the U.S. Forest Service is not coming through. And is funding to do these projects in jeopardy on a federal and state level because of some of this uncertainty? And how much will we have to put in our own budget?
I think the short answer is it's really unknown because things are fluid and moving quickly, but there have been impacts. We talked earlier about the delay of FEMA review of the plan. but they did get to it eventually, and so that function happened. The states come, the funding comes directly from FEMA, but it also comes through grants to Cal OES, who they then distribute. And so that's an open question. And I think our capital plans have the things that the have to do's, and that comes through the budget process and the funding streams that are identified there. I think the grants are more opportunistic to try to do more, and so we're going to track that. And if they're available, we'll go after them. We are spending time with Congressman Kiley, and he's been successful, and particularly with the water utilities. Tahoe City and North Tahoe got money through Kiley earmarks. And having these projects in an approved FEMA plan is the perfect position to approach him to try to secure that. So there's earmarks, there's grants, and, you know, however else it might come out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Morel. Is that your only comment, question? Okay. Director Laliotis, Director Bender, or Director Randall?
Pretty thorough.
It was
Looks
pretty
good.
thorough. It was pretty thorough.
Thank you for the detailed presentation.
Mm-hmm.
One question, Steve. What kind of dollars or just ballpark associated with those 7 bullet points you came up with?
It's a hard question to answer. I would say to do them all to the extent we would want, millions, tens of millions. Some of them, you know, the overhead system hardening, the, you know, veg management stuff is extensive, particularly if you go all the way to undergrounding or covered conductor, you know, on how you approach those. So I think they're big ticket items, which is part of why we do what we have to and what we must do. And we're really positioning for being able to do more if we can get more funding.
Yeah, there's always more to do, huh? Yeah.
My experience has been the project side is definitely much more challenging because the grants kind of come and go, and some don't fit what you're trying to do, and some do. But I think at the end of the day, and we experienced it here, and I experienced it in Tahoe City, where there's a disaster declaration. You know, you are eligible to receive funding from FEMA. You know, we recovered over, $1 million roughly from the Snowmageddon here. And, you know, during a long-term power outage, FEMA will reimburse you for all the diesel fuel that you spent burning generators, you know, burning fuel for generators. So I think it, you know, the project side can be a little more challenging, but being prepared to get reimbursed for, you know, by FEMA for, you know, declaration of emergencies, things like that. We've already experienced, and I think that's really where the value of this plan comes in the long run. So.
Yes, I agree. And, you know, and of course, it's always money or no money. We do the best we can to mitigate the hazards in our region. You know, we have to continue doing that no matter what the money looks like, to the extent that we can, of course. It was a little dismaying to read that we should be worried about volcanoes. I was in there, I'm like, really?
It's funny, when I saw that and everything there, I was like, oh, look at that.
Look at that. So I said, oh, look at that. Something else to worry about.
In the
Awesome.
review process, Nevada County added that to every jurisdiction because they are required to address it. And they're talking, you know, a plume of 10,000 miles of ash that comes and covers the United States kind of thing. So that was a requirement of Nevada County. That was not our addition.
Yeah. It's that big one down in Owens Valley, you know, it's coming back.
Go. Yeah.
No.
Well, in the
Shaking.
basin, one of the hazards was a seiche, which is a, you know, tsunami because of Lake Tahoe.
Because of Lake Tahoe.
So that would have been on our list if we were in the basin.
I did see a little tiny Lake Tahoe tsunami once. Like all the water did go back for like 3 feet and came back as like one. I was like, wow, it was very coordinated. It was really interesting. Anyhow, sorry, no more digressions.
We're diverging.
Okay, well, it sounds like all of the directors have had their minutes.
I'll
We're
move
good.
staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Hear no nays, the motion passes. Okay, action item number 12 is consideration to adopt Resolution 2025-18, amending District Code Title VII to include a preemptive that's a hard word to say, energization policy. There we go.
All right, good evening, President Flynn, members of the board. Mike Swanson, addressing action item number 12. As you may recall, we did a workshop on this last month. So some of this information, a lot of this information will be repeat. I'll try and go through the repeat stuff quickly. If I need to slow down, please let me know. So a little bit of more on the background and history. The wildfire threat, high temperatures, winds, intermittent droughts, dense forests, and of course, human factors. The Caldor mosquito fires highlight the regional risks. Utilities are held strictly liable for wildfire damages through the legal doctrine of inverse condemnation. Standard operating procedure is developed to reduce those ignition risks. This SOP is necessary due to the potential for de-energization of district facilities through locally initiated event or during transmission level PSUM events. Again, inverse condemnation is a challenge. PSPS is a proactive, last resort measure to protect life, property, and district assets, while mitigating wildfire risk and other significant threats, as well as district liability. California utilities are integrating their de-energization plans to wildfire mitigation. Northern California Power Agency, the NCPA, promotes a localized de-energization SOP. It aligns with the industry standards and regulatory expectations. PSPS programs are increasingly recognized as essential components for securing insurance coverage and maintaining favorable debt ratings. We know this will have an impact on the community. This SOP outlines essential protocols for the effective execution of PPS events, including clearly defined procedures for initiating and managing de-energization, coordinating with transmission providers and emergency response agencies, safe and efficient power restoration procedures, timely and transparent communications with our stakeholders, customers, structured re-energization protocols, and customer outreach strategies to inform and support the community. This balances fire risk reduction and community resilience. So the implementation, the SOP outlines key components of the district's operational response, including defined de-energization triggers. And the proposed SOP triggers for now would be the 45-mile-an-hour gusts and a burn index of greater than 85. I will say that these are the best information I can get. These are above our transmission providers' thresholds. Roles and responsibilities within the incident command structure, and customer notification procedures and post-event evaluations. The district is committed to continuous refinement of these protocols through collaboration with expert wildfire and risk consultants. We'll talk more about that in action item 13. This ensures our decision-making is based on the most localized, accurate, and up-to-date data available. The fiscal impact, there is no direct fiscal impact associated with this item. the contract support of a qualified weather risk consultant in fiscal year 25, proposed action item number 13, can be accomplished within the approved budget. The absence of a PPS program has contributed negatively to our 2022 electric debt rating and would likely increase insurance costs and negatively impact our credit worthiness going forward if not implemented. Recommendation tonight is to authorize the general manager to implement an electric utility preemptive de-energization program for the purposes of public safety and mitigation of risk to the district. Adoption of Resolution 2025-18 approving the revision to the district code, Chapter 7.08, continuity of service to include Section 7.08.050, preemptive de-energization. And I'd be more than happy to read that for you, or President Finn, you can read it as well, if
We'll
you
see if we
so
need to go
choose.
that far. Thank you very much, Mr. Swanson. Do we have any public comments on our preemptive power shutoff resolution? Okay, seeing none. Do we have questions or comments from the board on this new policy?
It's a good acronym now. No. A little adjustment, right? PPS sounds good.
Personal
Keep
protective
forgetting
shutoff.
my microphone. Yeah, yeah. What was it last time?
It was the same.
Oh, it was the same.
I was wondering what you
It
were
just
saying.
sounds better. How soon I forget.
There was a lot of discussion on what it should be.
Right. Okay. Good. We need to be different than what the investor-owned utilities are using. So, because it's a different thing. Yeah.
Recommendation to staff.
Director Randall's good. Director Morrell?
The only comment is this is a no-brainer. Of course, we're going to do this. I mean, yes, of course, we're going to, I mean, yeah, that's why there's no discussion. Of course, this is going to happen.
Yeah, it's worth chatting about, though. Director Laliotis, do you have any?
I just had a question. I don't know if I missed it or not, but is in the program, is there any discussion about if our provider does a preemptive power shutoff, we haven't met our thresholds internally, do we have a re-energization protocol at that point in time? So, to get our system back online?
Yeah, so we would follow the same process as if we were to do it. We must make sure our facilities are in safe condition in order to re-energize. We don't want to be the cause of something bad after an event.
So we're assuming that the event, even though it didn't trigger our thresholds, had potentially some impact on our system. I guess curiosity was like, for instance, on Sunday night when that transformer or whatever happened with NV Energy's facilities, power was off for 30, 40 minutes. That obviously was not a scheduled preemptive shut off on their end. It was it was a fault in their system. We did, obviously we did not do any re-energization protocols because it wasn't caused by a PSPS on their end.
That is correct.
Okay.
A good way to kind of have, and we'll educate the community on this. There's going to be a lot of education and communication efforts preempting all of this. Is if an outage is driven by or caused by a high fire weather risk event, whether it's a transmission event or a localized triggered one, it will require the implementation and execution of the re-energization process that we're proposing. If it's the outage was driven or caused by something else, then we wouldn't go through this protocol unless we had a scenario where we were approaching or close expecting these thresholds to exist and something else caused an outage. We may trigger these just because we're not comfortable re-energizing. The biggest risk is when the system's de-energized, our crews can't tell what happens out in the field. When it's energized, we can locate faults or where what has been tripped or opened. When everything's de-energized, we don't know if a tree fell into the branches or a car hit a pole. We don't know anything. So it's the challenge for us is what are the conditions when the power went out? That will determine what our re-energization process is.
Thank you for that clarification. There's a bit of nuance in here, wrinkles or different scenarios that, you never know what's going to happen till it happens. You think we've got all the scenarios covered, but we never do. Yeah, and I think, I don't take this decision lightly, although, you're well taken that it's obvious because human life is on the line, right? The safety of, but it's definitely something I wouldn't, we're not doing it lightly at all. We understand that these things are going to be very disruptive to the community, dangerous in and of themselves when we suddenly set people free to put, turn their generators on or do the things that they do when the power's out. People are they're squirrely. They're a lot like squirrels. So yeah, it's not something we take lightly. It's not, but it is a serious risk. We are in a new world. We do have to consider, as the power company, doing something as dramatic and drastic as turning off the power. So I agree. I'm in favor of this, but I understand how the community, we might need some massaging still. I did read the whole plan. It was very dramatic for a, pieces of paper. I can just picture the movie, it's just like it building tension, and then the power is off, and then it's off, and how do we get it back on? It was really, it was a pretty good read. Just a quick question, in that the incident commander is not the general manager. Is that an assigned role, and whose assignment is it?
So in the incident command structure, and it was part of the training that Jillian showed photos, we're building and incorporating it into kind of the vernacular and work model of this whole organization, because these aren't the only emergencies or events that we manage. It could be, any water event, it could be a traffic event, it could be lots of different things. And so the benefit of having the incident command structure in an organization such as ours is that it doesn't assign a person or a staff member to any position within the event. It assigns the most qualified and closest to the event staff member at that time. And so I'll use an example that a car hits a pole and causes damage. Our lineman goes out to investigate. By virtue of being the qualified personnel on site, that individual becomes the incident commander at that point. At which point that he or she can no longer manage the event or doesn't have the resources to manage the event, it gets escalated. And to that person's supervisor or the next qualified person, and the event grows. And so what we're trying to do is create a procedure. Most typically in these types of events, it's going to be the operations manager or the utility director, but it may be, in an example this weekend, we have a holiday where people are out on vacations or they can't access our facilities. It may be our engineering manager who becomes the incident commander. It may be a senior lineman. So we want to build a structure that we avoid our staff seeking someone else to make decisions. We make decisions that we're qualified for at the time and based on the resources we have available to us. And this is exactly how the fire department works, the police department, and essentially a little bit more complicated, but military and other agencies. It allows you to scale the event up and down based on the availability of resources. So we want to maintain and carry that model across everything we do here. It allows us, one, to manage it internally, and two, it allows us to participate as in a support role with the town, the police, the county, the fire department. So it's a really advantageous way to approach it.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that to me. It's useful information. That's good to know how it all works. Okay. Do we have a motion? Are we ready to entertain a motion? I am.
I'm going to move the recommended motion here to authorize the general manager to implement an electric utility preemptive de-energization program for the purposes of public safety and mitigation of risk to the district. And then also to adopt resolution, do we need to do these separately, by the way? Or is it one motion? Okay. Adopt resolution 2025-18, approving the revisions to district code, chapter 7.08, continuity of service, to include section 7.08.050, preemptive de-energization.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second? We have a second as well. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No nays. The motion passes unanimously. Excellent. Whew. Which brings us, I believe, to our last item on the agenda this evening is item number 13, consideration of a special services contract for weather and risk intelligence consultant to help us with our preemptive power shutoff planning.
Exactly. So this is action item 13. This is a follow-up to the previous, as you stated, President Finn. Again, a lot of duplication here. We know we operate in a high fire threat area. We're facing growing regulatory and operational demands. We have a need for real-time science-based wildfire decision support tools, and mitigation strategies must reflect the intensifying climate risk. So the company we've selected is called Cloudfire. So they're a recognized expert in the wildfire modeling and fire science. Our neighboring utilities, Liberty and Energy, PG&E, are all clients, as well as many others. They specialize in utility wildfire mitigation and preemptive de-energization protocols, and they have local ties to Truckee region and firsthand knowledge of our terrain and weather. So they presented two proposals. Proposal one is a fire risk mapping. So fire risk analysis and a tier polygon. This would create the zones that I had talked about in the workshop development. It comes at a fixed cost of $17,500. Proposal two is a PPS readiness support. This is to develop our PPS thresholds and real-time fire weather monitoring. Fixed cost of $10,000. It has a monthly fee of $3,000. That monthly fee is only when we need it. So if we just want to use it for 6 months, we only pay for 6 months. If we want to use it for 10, we pay for 10. Strategic justification, it's specialized expertise, proprietary wildfire modeling for utility operations, proven experience, delivered similar programs to regional utilities. They have local awareness, leverages Cloudfire's local presence to enhance precision and relevance, timeliness. Advancing weather monitoring and risk mitigation planning with the support of Cloudfire is essential for ahead of peak fire season. And our peak fire season is considered August to November. It's to ensure operational readiness and community protection. Fiscal impact, we have a budget currently allocated for $103,000 for special services of this nature. The forecasted expenditures including this contract remain within budget. The contract details, again, the base contract, and this is with both proposals, is for $45,500, 10% contingency with a total not to exceed $50,050. The recommendation tonight is to authorize the general manager to execute a special services contract with Cloudfire to provide specialized consulting services related to weather and wildfire risk analysis in 2025 for the amount of $45,500 plus 10% contingency for a total contract amount not to exceed $50,050.
Have any public comments on this item, hiring an expert to help us? Nope. Any directors' thoughts? Comments, questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So if we pay the monthly fee, I guess my question is, do we instigate this company's analysis of what's going on based on the weather patterns, or are they preemptively sort of doing that and then notifying us?
They're preemptively doing that and notifying us. So they'll notify us when the thresholds appear to be going to be met at that 72-hour mark. And as we all know, weather forecasts get better as the time gets closer. So there may be times where we just call the event. It's no longer necessary. There may be other times where it continues. So they'll be the ones letting us know that our triggers are potentially going to be met all the way up to the time of de-energization.
Any other questions or comments on this item? This is a no-brainer. If we're gonna we adopted the plan, let's execute it well.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
Very good. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? No nays? Okay, the motion passes. Wow, we were very efficient this evening. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your time and your presentations and your expertise and your diligence and all of the things. I think we're adjourned. We don't have anything else. Do we have anything else? Did I miss something? That's it. We don't have closed session. We're done. All right. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.